powering through, having a good time with this. Let's keep moving along. Here are some procedures which involve sampling. Examples here, you don't have to memorize these, just get familiar. Following procedures are those which would involve the process of sampling. So, testing the process of credit approval to customers for sales on account. As a company, you need to test the credit of a customer because guess what? If you don't do that, then the customer may not pay you if they don't have the money. It's kind of like a bank assessing your credit score or a landlord assessing your credit score. As the auditor, you want to make sure that they are testing credit approval for customers because that's just there's actually a lot of reasons, and we go over that at a different time. But you want to make sure it's good business practice, but also there could be fraud involved there if someone's just authorizing all these transactions for customers. That could be an indication that maybe they're getting kickbacks or something, or there's some issue with fraud. Establishing a baseline for the inventory level of a warehouse, so sampling the inventory level, analyzing customer feedback on the quality of a product, you could sample there. Checking the accuracy of a data entry process, just take a bunch of entries that were made and test their accuracy and how they were implemented. Measuring the performance of a production line, assessing each run through of the production line, we take a sample of those. You got assessing the accuracy of a billing system. A lot of these are internal control processes, tests of controls, testing the accuracy of the payroll system, seeing how well, sampling all of the paychecks that get distributed and just making sure that the process is just flowing properly. Evaluating the effectiveness of a training program, determining the cause of a production issue, and tracking customer trends for a product. Just give you an idea. You can use sampling for quite a bit. A lot of different points to use sampling for. Here are procedures which do not involve sampling, and here you may see some questions asking about this. The following procedures are those which would not involve the process of sampling, which you may think could involve sampling. But any procedure conducted to obtain an understanding of an entity's internal control. So we do use samples, as we say here, samples to test internal controls are used, but we don't use sampling to obtain an understanding. That's a very big distinction there. Now, kind of why does that play a role? What's the difference? You're saying, hey, Nick, crazy. What's the difference there? You know what? Maybe I am crazy. But here, obtaining an understanding of the entity's internal control generally happens in planning. We don't do sampling. We don't do testing in planning. But when we are trying to test internal controls to determine control risk, that is going to involve sampling. We're going to use that to provide a basis for an auditor to conclude whether the control activities are operating effectively. We're testing the cash process, testing segregation of duties, all of that, taking samples from the workforce. We are not going to use sampling when we're analyzing controls in determining whether proper segregation of duties are functioning or not. These controls do not provide documentary evidence of performance. So when we are going through the process, we want to document the whole process of the segregation of duties. We're not going to just take samples there. So when you're testing the specific controls, you may sample and say, okay, as a large company, I'm going to test maybe just cash process 1 and cash process 3. But when we're trying to determine if segregation duties are functioning or not, we are not going to use that sampling process. Right? Again, we could use sampling to determine which departments or which segments we're going to test. But once we actually decide we're going to test this department for segregation of duties, we're not going to use sampling. Lastly, we're not going to use sampling when evaluating the overall effectiveness of the accounting system. This does not involve taking samples of transactions. These are pulled from questions you may see. So they seem random. You're like, why are you bringing this up? That's why. I'm only bringing things up that are relevant. I want you to get done with this exam, move on, forget me, forget the exam ever existed. Just look at those 3 letters and CPA after your name and just enjoy it. Hey there. Are you ready to not only pass your CPA exams, but truly understand and enjoy the material while studying? I know it seems impossible, right? Especially to enjoy the material. We'll do it together. Tap into the power of cpa.examprep.ai, where we've got personalized quizzes, multiple choice questions, memorization guides, flashcards, simulations, all tailored to your learning. Our adaptive study planning puts you on the fastest path to success and lifts you back up if you fall behind. Avoid wasting your precious time and money attempting an exam with a low chance of passing, because who wants that? We want to get you through this process as quick as possible. Our exam readiness prediction lets you walk in with confidence, knowing that you're prepared for success on exam day. Thankfully, there's no payment method needed to get started. So why don't you come join us? Visit cpa.examprep.ai and let's achieve your exam success together.